This story's called Bloodhound. Once upon a time, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, there lived a woman named Olivia. She was an ordinary woman, struggling with body image issues, constantly on the lookout for a miracle solution to shed those extra pounds that haunted her for years. One fateful day, while scrolling through her social media feed, Olivia stumbled upon an ad that promised an extraordinary weight loss transformation. The ad claimed that a new miracle drink, known as Slim Fusion, could help shed her pounds effortlessly and regain her confidence. Desperate and intrigued, she clicked on the link, leading her to a flashy website filled with testimonials and before and after pictures of people who had achieved astonishing results. Without a second thought, Olivia ordered a month's supply of Slim Fusion. She eagerly awaited its arrival, hoping it will finally be the answer to her prayers. Little did she know that this decision would lead her down a nightmarish path. A week later, the package arrived at her doorstep. It was a sleek, silver bottle with a promise of transformation. Olivia followed those instructions diligently, consuming the mysterious liquid each day. It tasted odd, with a bitter aftertaste, but she was determined to see the results. As the days passed, Olivia began noticing subtle changes in her body. The pounds were indeed melting away, but something else was happening too. Her skin started to feel rough, and her joints ached. She dismissed these as symptoms, attributing them to the rapid weight loss. One night, while sitting on her couch, she felt an intense itch on her arm. She looked down and gasped in horror, and she saw a small insect-like creature crawling on her skin. It was no longer than a centimeter, with multiple legs and a grotesque appearance. Olivia panicked and swatted it away, but more insects emerged from her body. Terrified, she rushed to the bathroom mirror, only to find her reflection distorted. Her skin had transformed into a chinaceous exoskeleton, and her eyes had multiplied into hundreds of tiny compound eyes. She had become an insect herself, trapped in a grotesque, nightmarish form. Olivia's screams echoed throughout her house, alerting her loyal dog Max. Max, a gentle bloodhound, rushed to her side, sensing her distress. However, as he approached, something sinister had taken over him. His eyes glowed with an eerie, malevolent light, and his once friendly demeanor turned menacing. Olivia, in her insectoid form, tried to call out to Max, but the only sound that came out was a series of strange clicking noises. It was as if she had lost her ability to communicate as human. Max lunged at her with a growl, his sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light. Olivia's instincts kicked in, and she scrambled to escape his attack. The once beloved pet pursued her relentlessly throughout the house, a predatory glint in his eyes. Hours turned into a never-ending nightmarish chase, with Olivia desperately trying to outwit her own dog. Her transformation had not only altered her physically, but had also taken away her ability to defend herself effectively. She crawled through the dark corners of her home, seeking refuge from the relentless canine predator. As the night wore on, Olivia's strength waned. She was cornered in the attic, surrounded by dusty old boxes and eerie shadows. Max closed in, his growls growing louder and more menacing. There was a sinister intelligence behind those glowing eyes, a malevolence that chilled Olivia to her core. Just as Max lunged for the final attack, a beam of sunlight pierced through a crack in the attic window. The light hit Olivia, and as if by a miracle, her insectoid form began to disintegrate. She could feel her body changing, reverting back to her human self. In her weakened state, she stumbled out of the attic and collapsed on the floor. Gasping for breath, Max, freed from the sinister influence, whimpered and licked her face, showing love and concern one more. Olivia never fully recovered from the trauma of that night, haunted by the memories of her transformation and the terror of being pursued by her own dog. She had learned the hard way that there was no such shortcuts to weight loss, and the promises were too good to be true. And so, the quiet suburban neighborhood would forever hold on to the chilling tale of Olivia's transformation, a cautionary tale of the dangers of seeking quick fixes for one's insecurity and the horrifying consequences they may bring. This story is called Wishkeeper. In the quiet, sleepy town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and dense forest, lived a curious little boy named Ethan. He was an imaginative child, always searching for adventure in the most unexpected places. His parents, Emily and Thomas, cherished their son's innocent spirit and encouraged his wild tales. One summer afternoon, while exploring the dusty attic of their century-old house, Ethan stumbled upon an ancient chest hidden beneath a tattered, forgotten quilt. The chest was ancient, its wood cracked and its hinges rusted with age. It seemed like it hadn't been touched in generations. Ethan's eyes widened with excitement as he opened the chest to reveal an eerie, old-fashioned jack-in-the-box. The colors were faded, and the clown's painted face had a sinister, twisted feature. A sense of foreboding filled the attic as Ethan reached out to touch and turn the crank. The music that played was hauntingly beautiful, a melancholic melody that sent shivers down Ethan's arms. With each rotation of the crank, the music grew louder and more enchanting. Finally, with a sudden pop, the jack-in-the-box burst open, revealing a grotesque, leering figurine. "I am the Wishkeeper," the figure said in a whisper that seemed to emanate from another realm. "I can grant you 3 wishes, but beware, young one, for every wish comes at a price." Ethan hesitated for only a moment, his curiosity getting the best of him. "I wish for endless adventure," he declared, imagining far-off lands and daring escapades. In an instant, the room transformed. Maps adorned the walls, and an explorer's hat appeared on Ethan's head. He found himself in the heart of a jungle, surrounded by exotic creatures and dense foliage. The thrill of adventure coursed through him, but there was something amiss. As he explored the jungle, he noticed that once vibrant wildlife was fading away, turning gray and lifeless. The trees, once lush, became gnarled and barren. In the distance, he heard the pained cries of animals as they withered into dust. Panicking, Ethan rushed back to the attic and confronted the Wishkeeper. "What have you done?" he demanded. The grinning figure replied, "Your first wish has been granted, but the price was the life force of all the creatures in your adventure. They all have perished." Ethan was overcome with guilt, but he had no choice to make a second wish. Desperation filled his voice. "I wish to undo the harm caused by my first wish and restore the balance to the jungle." In an instant, the jungle reverted back to its former glory, and the creatures were brought back to life. But the Wishkeeper's sinister laughter filled the air. "Your second wish has been granted, but the balance you seek requires a heavy toll." Ethan's heart sank as he realized the true nature of the toy. His final wish was the only hope for salvation. With a trembling voice, he wished, I wish to be free from the Wishkeeper's curse, and for my parents to be safe and sound." A blinding light enveloped the attic, and when it faded, the wish keeper was gone. Ethan's parents, Emily and Thomas, rushed to him, bewildered but unharmed. They had no memory of the ordeal, and Ethan decided to keep a secret, shielding them from the horrors they had narrowly escaped. 1. Years passed, and the Jack-in-the-Box was sealed away in the attic, a grim reminder of the darkness it had concealed. Ethan learned that some wishes come at a cost too steep to bear, and that even the most innocent-looking toys could hold the darkest secrets. Late at night, when the house was silent, Ethan could sometimes hear faint whispers emanating from the chest, a haunting reminder of the terror that had once unleashed. The memory of that fateful day will forever linger, a cautionary tale to never underestimate the power of a toy that promised wishes. This story's called Cartel. I never thought it would come to this. From the penthouse suites of towering skyscrapers to the sprawling estates, my life as a millionaire was the world of privilege and luxury. But like the darkest tales of fortune's fickleness, it all unraveled in a heartbeat when I found myself a captive of the merciless cartel. My name is Richard Ashford, a name synonymous with wealth and influence. As the CEO of a multinational conglomerate, my life was a whirlwind of meetings, acquisitions, and power plays. Money was my armor, and I believed myself invincible until the day I received my first chilling message. It arrived in the form of a blood-stained envelope delivered by an anonymous courier to my office. Inside, a Polaroid photograph revealed a gruesome sight: a severed finger bearing a golden ring, a family heirloom I had worn for years. Accompanying the macabre image was a single word scrawled in red ink: pay. Fear constricted my heart, and I knew I had stepped into a shadowy realm where money couldn't save me. The cartel had come knocking, and they demanded a ransom far beyond any sum I could provide. My empire was vast, but it was built on a fragile foundation of numbers and bank accounts and shares on the market. The days that followed were a nightmarish descent into uncertainty. My luxurious penthouse had become a prison, the sweeping views of the city now mocking reminders of my fall from grace. My once loyal security team was paralyzed by the cartel's chilling message, and the police were powerless against any adversary that operated with impunity. I received a second message, this time delivered to my home. It contained another photograph, this one more chilling than the last. It showed my beloved daughter, blindfolded and bound. Panic surged through me as I realized that the cartel's reach extended beyond my own life. They held my family hostage. Desperation pushed me to explore options I had never considered. I reached out to contacts in the criminal underworld, seeking information or assistance. The cartel was a hydra, its influence intertwined with corrupt officials and shadowy figures. Every move I made was scrutinized, every lead a dead end. In the midst of the chaos, a contact I trusted whispered the name Carlos Hernandez. He was rumored to be a founding member of the cartel who had turned against him, seeking refuge in the criminal underground. With no other options, I arranged a clandestine meeting. Our meeting took place in a dimly lit, graffiti-covered alley. Carlos was a tall, imposing figure with a scarred face that bore the weight of his past. He listened to my story, his eyes betraying a flicker of sympathy amid the hardened exterior. "Your only chance is to strike a deal," he said, his voice a low, gravely rumble. "They'll want something from you, something that's worth more than money." With Carlos as my reluctant guide, I began a treacherous journey into the heart of the cartel's territory. The plan was simple: offer them something so valuable that they couldn't refuse. Carlos had insider knowledge, and together We uncovered their darkest secrets, names, deals, and betrayals that could shatter the cartel's power structure. The meeting took place in a derelict warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Armed guards surrounded me, their faces concealed by masks. Across the dimly lit room, a man emerged from the shadows. Luis Rodriguez, the cartel's ruthless leader. Luis's eyes bore into mine as he presented the damning evidence, his face betraying none of the emotions that must have churned within him. He considered the documents, photographs, and files, each one a nail in the coffin of the cartel's secrets. "You're a shrewd businessman, Mr. Rushford," he finally said, his voice as cold as steel. "But you've underestimated the consequences of your actions." A chilling realization coursed through me. I had gambled everything on this dangerous gambit, and now the cartel held my life in their hands. Luis ordered his men to release my daughter, and I watched as she stumbled into my arms. Her tear-streaked face, a haunting reflection of the horror she had endured. But the cartel's vengeance was far from over. Carlos had warned me that there would be a reckoning, and it was swift and brutal. As we left the warehouse, a car pulled up beside us, and masked gunmen opened fire. Carlos fell, his body a shield that saved my life, but I was wounded in the process. I managed to escape with my daughter, leaving behind the life I'd once known. The cartel's retaliation had taken a heavy toll, and the scars on my body were matched by the scars on my soul. We lived in hiding, always on the move, haunted by the shadow of Luis Rodriguez and his relentless pursuit of vengeance. Time blurred as we navigated a world of secrets and shadows, always one step ahead of the cartel's reach. But as I held on to my daughter, we held on to each other, I knew that my fortune, once my shield and my prison, had become my curse. In the dark recesses of my mind, I wonder if there would ever be a way to truly escape the cartel's grip, or if our lives would forever be defined by fear and the price of power. This story is called Bewitched. The crisp October air tingled with the promise of Halloween as I watched my daughter Emma twirl in her witch's costume. Her laughter was a delightful melody, and the sight of her filled me with warmth. At 9 years old, she was growing up too fast, and these moments were too precious. My name is Mark, a devoted father to Emma and a loving husband to my wife Sarah. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood where Halloween was a time for families to come together. Little did I know that this Halloween would unravel our lives in ways I couldn't fathom. As twilight descended, we set out to join our neighbors in their trick-or-treating adventure. Emma's enthusiasm was infectious, and she relished the chance to knock on doors and shout, "Trick-or-treat!" Her costume, complete with a pointed hat and a broomstick, made her look like the perfect little witch. But as the evening wore on, I noticed something unsettling. Emma's fascination with the occult seemed to intensify. She'd whisper incantations underneath her breath as we approached each house, and her innocent smile took on a disturbing edge. Still, I chalked it up to the excitement of Halloween. It wasn't until we reached the old, eerie mansion at the end of the street that my unease deepened. The neighbors had always warned us to stay away from it, claiming it was cursed. Emma, however, insisted on going inside, claiming it was the perfect place to collect more candy. With a lump in my throat, I agreed, promising to wait for her outside while she explored the house. Sarah and I exchanged worried glances as Emma disappeared into the looming shadows of the decrepit mansion. Minutes passed, feeling like hours, and the darkness around us seemed to close in. Then, a bone-chilling scream pierced the air, tearing through the silence like a knife. Without a second thought, Sarah and I rushed into the house, our hearts pounding with fear. What we encountered inside would haunt us forever. The mansion's exterior was a nightmarish realm. Furniture floated in midair, portraits on the walls twisted with grotesque shapes, and candles ignited without a visible flame. At the center of this chaos stood Emma, her eyes gleaming with an eerie light. Her laughter, once sweet, was now a sinister cackle. "Daddy, Mommy, you're just in time for the grand performance," Emma declared, her voice dripping with malevolence. I was paralyzed with terror as I realized the truth. My daughter was no ordinary child. She was a witch, and not just any witch, but one with powers. I watched in horror as she conjured all these dark forces, twisting reality into a grotesque nightmare. Neighbors who had followed us were ensnared by her spells, their faces twisted in agony. Desperation fueled my actions. I had to save Emma, to free her from the darkness that had taken hold of her innocent soul. But breaking the dark enchantment was no easy task. Each step I took was met with resistance from unseen forces, sending me crashing into the walls. Sarah, her maternal instincts kicking in, attempted to reason with Emma, but our daughter's response was chilling. "Join me in the darkness, or become a part of it," Emma hissed, her voice laced with venom. In the dim light of the cursed mansion, I knew I had to confront the sinister forces that possessed my daughter. With all the love and hope I had for Emma, I pleaded with her to remember who she was, to resist the evil that threatened to consume her. A fierce battle of wills unfolded, darkness against love. The very fabric of reality seemed to shudder as those two forces clashed. Sarah joined me in her desperate plea, tears streaming down her face. Slowly, but surely, Emma's grip on the malevolent power weakened. As the clock struck midnight, Halloween came to an end. The magic that had hung heavy in the air began to dissipate. With one final surge of determination, we called out to Emma, urging her to come back to us. In that moment, the bond of love between parents and child triumphed over the darkness. Emma's eyes lost their eerie glow as she crumpled to the ground, drained and exhausted. The malevolent forces that had possessed her dissolved into nothingness. Dawn broke, and we emerged from the mansion, our family forever changed. The horrors of that Halloween night were over, but the scars would linger, a reminder of the evil that would briefly held our daughter captive. We vowed to protect Emma from her dark abilities, to guide her towards the light, and to ensure that love would always prevail over darkness in our family. And so, the tale of that fateful Halloween night became a haunting chapter in our lives. A night where a father discovered the true nature of his daughter and fought with all of his heart to save her from the clutches of evil. This story's called Horizon. The sea was an unforgiving mistress, and Miguel knew this all too well. Born into a family of fishermen in the small coastal village of San Pedro, he had spent his entire life battling the sumptuous waves of the Pacific Ocean. Each day, he and his fellow fishermen set sail before dawn, hoping for a bountiful catch to feed their families. One fateful morning, as the sun's first rays painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Miguel embarked on a journey that would change the course of his life. The sea had been unusually calm that day, deceiving him into a false sense of security. As Miguel cast his net into the depths, his small fishing boat bobbed gently on the tranquil waters. The promise of a plentiful catch filled his heart with hope, but the sea had other plans. Without warning, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, casting a shadow over the ocean. Miguel's fellow fishermen, sensing the impending storm, hastily began pulling in their nets and prepared to return to the safety of the shore. But Miguel, stubborn and determined, refused to yield to the approaching tempest. He believed that the biggest catch of his life was within his grasp. The wind howled, and the waves grew turbulent. Miguel's boat was tossed around like a leaf in a storm. Panic gnawed at his heart as he fought to regain control, but it was too late. A massive wave crashed over the boat, sending it spinning into the tumultuous sea. As the icy waters enveloped him, Miguel's world descended into chaos. He struggled to surface, gasping for air, his vision blurred by the salt water stinging his eyes. Desperation set in as he scanned the horizon for any sign of his fellow fishermen, but they were nowhere to be seen. Miguel was alone, adrift in a vast and relentless ocean. His boat had vanished beneath the waves, and all he had left was a life jacket and his resolve to survive. The storm raged on, and Miguel clung to a small piece of salvation that kept him afloat. Hours turned into days as Miguel drifted aimlessly on the open sea. Hunger gnawed at his belly, and thirst parched his throat. The relentless sun burned his skin during the day, and the frigid nights left him shivering and exhausted. He began to lose hope, wondering if he'll ever see land again. But as days stretched into weeks, Miguel's mind began to unravel. He saw strange and unsettling things on the horizon. Phantom ships that appeared and disappeared, ethereal figures that danced on the waves. He heard voices carried by the wind, whispers that spoke of lost souls in eternal torment. One night, as he gazed up into the starry sky, Miguel saw a constellation that seemed to beckon him. It was the shape of a fish, its scales shimmering with an otherworldly light. Miguel felt an irresistible urge to follow its guidance, as if it was his only hope for salvation. With renewed determination, he adjusted his course, steering his makeshift raft into the direction of the celestial fish. Days turned into weeks once more, but Miguel pressed on, driven by an unexplainable force. And then, one fateful morning, he spotted land on the horizon. It was a small, uninhabited island, a desolate strip of land surrounded by jagged rocks and crashing waves. With the last reserves of his strength, Miguel paddled toward the shore, his body battered and bruised. As he stepped onto the gritty sand, Miguel felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had survived the sea's relentless fury. He was no longer adrift in the open ocean, but the island held its own secrets, and Miguel was about to discover the true horror that awaited him. The land was devoid of life, its eerie silence broken only by the haunting cries of seabirds. Miguel searched for water and fresh food, but the land yielded nothing. It was a barren wasteland, a place of desolation and despair. The days turned into weeks once more. Miguel's sanity began to unravel further. He heard voices in the wind, whispers that echoed through the barren landscape. Shadows danced at the edges of his vision, and he saw fleeting glimpses of ghostly figures amongst the rocks. As he ventured further into the island's interior, Miguel came upon a cave, its entrance hidden amongst the rocks. The voices in the wind grew louder, urging him to enter. With trembling hands, he stepped into the yawning abyss. Inside the cave, Miguel discovered a gruesome sight. The walls were adorned with the bones of countless sailors who had met their end on the island. Skulls grinned menacingly, and the hollow eye sockets seemed to watch his every move. In the heart of the cave, Miguel found a grotesque altar, a mound of bones and shells. It was there that he realized the horrifying truth. The island was a trap, a malevolent force that drew lost souls like himself to their doom. The celestial fish in the sky was not a guiding light, but a harbinger of despair. Desperation and terror gripped Miguel. as he realized that he was not alone on the island. Ethereal figures, the lost souls of those who had perished before him, closed in around him. They whispered in a language that he could not understand, their voices filled with anguish and longing. Miguel knew that he would never escape the island. They would become another addition to his macabre collection of bones. As the voices of the lost souls grew louder and the darkness closed in around him, he whispered a final prayer for forgiveness, his voice lost among the haunted cries of the damned.